Have you ever felt like you're disappearing little by little, as if each passing day a part of you gets lost in the void? There's a peculiar sensation, almost ghostly, of being physically present, but completely absent in essence. It's like waking up every morning and discovering that the mirror reflects only a vague outline of what you used to be. The people around you continue their lives. They talk, they smile, they touch your skin, but you feel as if you're watching everything through a fogged glass. Franz Kafka understood this anguish with surgical precision that still sends chills through our souls today. He knew that there are certain human characteristics that function like slow poison, silently corroding our capacity to connect, to love, to simply exist in fullness. And the most terrible thing is that we often develop these characteristics as protective mechanisms, without realizing that they become the very prisons that isolate us from the world and from ourselves. Today, we're going to explore these 5 devastating characteristics that not only make us lose all the people we love, but mainly make us lose what is most precious, our own essence. If you've made it this far, it's because something in your soul recognized this pain I just described. You are not alone in this journey of recognition and transformation. This channel exists for people like you, who feel deeply, who question, who sometimes feel lost in a world that doesn't seem to make sense. Subscribe with us, because here you will find not just understanding, but real tools to rebuild your connections and, more importantly, to rediscover yourself. Also, leave a like so that more people can find this space of welcome and reflection. Together, we will navigate these deep waters of human existence with courage and wisdom. The first characteristic that condemns us to isolation is the compulsive need for control. Observe how a spider constructs its web. Each thread is calculated, each movement has a specific purpose. The spider believes it completely dominates its small universe until a simple breeze destroys hours of meticulous work. This is how we are when we try to control every aspect of our relationships. We plan entire conversations in our heads before they happen. We rehearse answers to questions that may never be asked. We create scenarios where all variables are under our domain. Kafka knew that this need for control is born from the deep fear of being rejected, abandoned, judged. It's a primitive survival mechanism that transforms into a destructive force. When we try to control others, when we want them to act, think, and feel exactly as we imagine they should, we are actually building an artificial version of reality. The people around us begin to feel like puppets in a theater they never chose to participate in. They feel that their spontaneity, their authenticity, their own humanity is being suffocated by our rigid expectations. Control is a cruel illusion. The more we clench our fists trying to hold sand, the more it slips through our fingers. True relationships flourish in unpredictability, in surprise, in the freedom to be imperfect. When we control, we don't love, we merely possess, and nobody wants to be possessed for long. The second deadly characteristic is the desperate need for external approval. Imagine a sunflower that, instead of following the sun, tries to please simultaneously all cardinal points, contorting itself unnaturally until it completely loses its original form. This is the tragedy of those who build their entire identity upon others' opinions. Kafka lived this anguish in his own skin, always seeking the approval of a father who never offered it, always molding himself to meet expectations that changed like evening shadows. When our self-esteem depends totally on what others think about us, we begin an impossible game to win. We modify our opinions to please one group, only to discover we displease another. We suppress our authentic desires to fit into molds that weren't made for us. Eventually, we completely lose the notion of who we really are beneath all these layers of personas created to please. The people around us begin to perceive this inconsistency. They feel they are relating to a series of masks, never with the real person. How can they trust someone who changes personality depending on the audience? How can they connect deeply with someone who never truly shows themselves? The cruel irony is that, seeking universal approval, we end up losing everyone's respect. People value authenticity, even when it comes with rough edges. They prefer someone genuine and imperfect to someone artificially perfect, but completely empty. And you? Have you ever felt this sensation of living a life that isn't yours, of playing a character you never chose to be? That anguish of looking in the mirror and not recognizing who is there, of realizing that your words, your gestures, even your thoughts seem borrowed from other people. If you're going through this now, leave in the comments. I lost who I was, but I want to find myself. Your courage in sharing this could be exactly what another person needs to hear today, to know they are not alone in this journey of rediscovering themselves. The third devastating characteristic is chronic pessimism that poisons all our interactions. Picture a crystalline fountain that, drop by drop, receives contaminated water until all its purity transforms into something murky and undrinkable. This is our presence when we carry with us a permanently somber vision of existence. Kafka knew intimately this shadowy territory of the human soul, that region where each hope is immediately dissected by the sharp blade of anticipated disillusionment. Chronically pessimistic people develop an almost supernatural ability to find the dark side of any situation. A promotion at work becomes evidence that more responsibilities and stress are coming. A sunny day is just the prelude to an inevitable storm. A gesture of affection from a partner is interpreted as guilt for some betrayal not yet discovered. This constant negativity functions like a force field that naturally repels people around us, not because they are superficial or incapable of dealing with difficult moments, but because the energy we emanate when trapped in chronic pessimism is literally draining. Conversations become endurance exercises where every attempt to inject lightness or hope is immediately neutralized by our compulsive need to point out everything that can go wrong. Over time, people begin to avoid us, not out of malice, but out of preservation instinct. They associate our presence with a sensation of weight, of emotional fatigue, of diminishment of their own vital energy. The fourth characteristic that condemns us to isolation is constant comparison that transforms each relationship into a silent and toxic competition. Observe two trees growing side by side in a forest. They don't compete for sunlight, they simply grow, each developing its unique form, their roots intertwining underground in a network of mutual support. But we, complex and wounded human beings, transform every interaction into an opportunity to measure our value in relation to others. Kafka knew that this compulsion is born from a deep wound in our self-esteem, a painful conviction that we can only have value if we are superior to others in some aspect. When we are trapped in this pattern, each success of someone close becomes a threat to our own worth. A friend's promotion is not cause for celebration, but cruel evidence of our own inadequacy. A spouse's happiness is not something to be shared, but a performance that makes us feel even more miserable. We develop a sickly sensitivity to detect any sign that others are living fuller, more successful, more meaningful lives than ours. This constant comparison poisons our capacity to form authentically loving connections. How can we genuinely celebrate others when each joy of theirs represents a diminishment of our own perceived value? People feel this competitive energy, even when we try to disguise it under forced smiles and superficial congratulations. They perceive that our friendship comes with a price. They need to diminish their own successes to not trigger our insecurity. Authentic relationships require the capacity for expansion, to grow together with others' growth, to find genuine joy in others' well-being. The fifth and perhaps most destructive characteristic is the inability to be vulnerable, the construction of walls so high that not even we can see over them anymore. Imagine a castle built to resist any siege. Thick walls, tiny windows, only one heavily guarded entrance. The castle is impenetrable, but the inhabitants inside slowly suffocate in the absence of fresh air and natural light. Kafka understood that vulnerability is simultaneously our greatest weakness and our only path to authentic connection. When we build elaborate defenses to protect ourselves from potential hurt, we also isolate ourselves from potential love, understanding, and genuine intimacy. People who have developed this characteristic have become expert at deflecting personal questions with humor or counter-questions, at sharing opinions about external topics while revealing nothing about their internal landscape, at maintaining relationships that remain forever at surface level. They learned that sharing pain resulted in judgment or abandonment in the past, so they developed sophisticated strategies to appear open while remaining completely closed. The tragic irony is that trying to protect themselves from rejection, they guarantee that rejection will eventually come. People crave authentic connection, and when they feel that someone is permanently hiding behind walls, they gradually begin to invest their emotional energy elsewhere. Vulnerability doesn't mean sharing every detail of our internal chaos with everyone we meet. It means allowing ourselves to be genuinely known by those who demonstrate they deserve that trust, removing our masks gradually, revealing our humanity piece by piece. It means acknowledging that protecting ourselves from all pain also protects us from all joy. These 5 characteristics function as an interconnected system that gradually corrodes our ability to form meaningful connections. Control makes us push others away with our rigidity. Need for external approval makes us lose ourselves completely. Chronic pessimism drains others of their energy. Constant comparison transforms every relationship into competition. Inability to be vulnerable keeps everyone at safe distance where real intimacy can never flourish. Kafka knew that recognition is the first step toward transformation. We cannot change what we cannot see clearly. But recognition alone is not enough. It must be followed by compassionate action toward ourselves and conscious effort to develop healthier patterns. Breaking free from these characteristics requires patience with ourselves, understanding that they developed over years as protective mechanisms, and gentleness in the process of replacing them with approaches that actually serve our well-being and our connections with others. Real transformation happens when we begin to practice opposite behaviors deliberately. Instead of control, practice acceptance of uncertainty. Instead of seeking external approval, develop internal compass based on your authentic values. Instead of pessimism, practice finding one small thing to appreciate daily. Instead of comparison, practice celebration of others' success as expansion of possibility for everyone. Instead of hiding behind walls, practice sharing one small, vulnerable truth with someone trustworthy. Each small step creates ripple effects that gradually transform not just how others perceive us, but more importantly, how we perceive and treat ourselves. Recovery from isolation is possible, but requires courage to face what we've been avoiding and consistency in practicing new ways of being, even when old patterns feel familiar and safe.